Shalom, and welcome to Expanding Your Vision, our weekly podcast where we look to see the times that we are living in, and as a guide, going back, searching the scriptures, the Torah portion of the week, the festivals that are approaching, or the ones we've just left even, the Hebrew month, which each has its own little identity. We've just left the month of Heshvan recently, and it's a month of no festivals, no biblical feasts, no feasts of the community, and it has a lot of momentous historical events that have happened during it. The flood of Noah, as well as discussing the portion of Noah and receiving of what that has for us in our day. But we have now entered into the month of Kislev, which has a notable day, Hanukkah. And so we are in our Hanukkah colors, and at times we've got our Hanukkah accoutrements here. These are Hanukkahs, so they are a version of the testimony of the menorah that hung in the temple and the tabernacle. Didn't hang there, it stood, but where it was present. And because Hanukkah has the idea, of course we'll get into this a little later, but tip of the hat, this is an 8 candelabra on each side with the shamash in the middle, and that is to make it a special kind of version of the 6 or 7 candles, but 3 on each side and 1 in the middle that was the true menorah, because Hanukkah is dealing with the rededication of the altar and the temple, ownership of the temple, that this version of it has been used to celebrate that holiday. And here's various versions of it. There's all kinds. There's light bulb ones, there's paint, there's little card ones that are just paper, there's actual fire, there's oil, there's candle. So lots of ways it's represented in the individual homes as it's celebrated.
Yeah, I probably have at least 10, if not more, different Hanukkahs. One can never have too many.
Yeah. I mean, there's always opportunity with it,
right.
And they're cute, and they have all kinds of various cultural things, and modern day and historical, and again, some are oil, some are electric, some are paper, some are candles and wax. But they're a way to celebrate that in our homes. It's the Hanukkah is the Hanukkah version of the menorah. And again, a big festive part of it, as you can see even onto the mugs that we drink out of for our coffee. So big festivities on that day. And it is a joyous holiday. It celebrates a hardship, but it's about the victory that comes out of it. That's why there's a lot of joy in it.
Right. And of course, we know and understand that it is not a feast according to Leviticus 23, and Purim is another one that we will celebrate later on, 3 months. That is also not a biblical feast, but the reason why, and there's many congregations who don't celebrate Hanukkah because it's not in Leviticus 23, and I just think that the reason that we celebrate it is because it's Hanukkah and Purim are both historical events that were very pivotal in Jewish history. Those were both times that the Jewish people could have been annihilated, but the victory comes back. And so that's really why we celebrate it. And it's much like in America, we celebrate the 4th of July, and it's because it's a pivotal historical event that, and we want to just to celebrate it as well.
Yeah, give it its due.
Right.
Remember, springboard from that, learn the lessons of the history, but important to know where we've come from in order to know where we're going.
Well, and too, you have to remember that, and I think I mentioned it the last time, maybe not, but that, in this season is a lot of times there's a lot of battles going on in our own lives, and so we can, and the same thing with Purim, each holiday has its season and it has its atmosphere, and so if we can know how to have the victories and to know that at the end of end of it all, that we will have the victory.
have victory.
But there's some key things that could point to how well we get through these times.
Yeah. In this portion, it is Mikketz at the end. This is the 10th Torah portion and the 54 portion cycle. It is Genesis, Bereshit 41 verse 1 through chapter 44 verse 17. And it is this time where Joseph is starting to get that victory. He's been suffering for quite a years, thrown into the pit, but then accused in Potiphar's household, and he's been imprisoned. He had a short moment, it seemed like he had a little bit more, I don't know if hope is the right word, if he lost hope, but certainly encouragement, where one of his more infamous moments in the Lord, he is in the company of two of Pharaoh's officials, the cupbearer and the baker, who have been put into prison. Pharaoh was not happy with his servants, put them in prison, and that night they both have prophetic dreams, but they don't know what it means. But they find the company of Joseph, and Joseph interprets those dreams to the point where they know what happens, and then more so when it does happen, that the cupbearer, they would both be restored to their position, but the baker would be hanged and the cupbearer would go forward, continuing his position. But he did ask the cupbearer to remember him when he is restored, and he did not. So the cupbearer did not until we get to this portion, Mikketz. So we see Joseph now, having gone through his trial. I mean, not that his life is always easy after this, but certainly this has been a long trial, arduous and persistent. He now is going to get a breath. He's going to be restored. He's going to be removed from prison, and he's going to be made the second in command of the great empire of the world at the time. So in a very short moment. But because he had interpreted those dreams, that was still out there. While the cupbearer didn't remember him when he was restored, 2 years later we come to another set of dreams that the Pharaoh has. He has one dream, it awakens him. He has a second dream, and he doesn't know what either of these dreams mean. So he searches out, but it sparks the mind of the cupbearer. It says, when you were unhappy with your servant and you put us in prison, and we met this Hebrew who was able to tell us what our dreams meant, that we both had that night. And such it's come to pass at that. And now it's 2 years later, and he tells them of this. So because of this testimony, Joseph is sent for. He's cleaned up, he's been able to shave and present himself and clothed, brought out, that he might have audience with Pharaoh and hear these dreams. So it sets this in motion of him with his dreams. Of course, he has his dreams as a child, which got him in some trouble and didn't win him any friends amongst the family. They became very upset how everybody would be serving him. But we are now seeing little hints at the manifestation of that, because he's about to be exalted. He's going to be given a different name. He will appear very much Egyptian and not Hebrew in culture and in all ways that we can see. He would be perceived as an Egyptian, especially being, as Pharaoh says, he would be in charge of all of his charge, except for when he is on the throne. Joseph is the highest authority. And so that's what happens out of this moment when he's called forth. And it's because of what happens here that is set in place. Because of the baker and the cupbearer's dream, he's now in a position to demonstrate his prowess in this, and that the Lord is with him. And that's the greatness of the testimony. And Joseph is one to point that out, that it's not him who knows, but he knows the one who knows. He knows the King of Kings, who is able to interpret, who gives the dreams, but the interpretation as well. So Pharaoh has the dream of 7 fat, healthy cows and 7 lean cows. And then he wakes up startled and goes back to sleep and has a dream of 7 hearty ears of wheat, of grain, and then very poor, wimpy looking grain having been beaten by the east wind.
Yeah, and so just kind of like to go back, there's just really something that we talked about earlier in, so when we sleep, some of the sages teach that 1/60 of our dreams is prophecy.
Yeah.
And so we can kind of see how the dreams, were revealing things, prophecy. And so we start with Yaakov, where he had dreams or visions. So he had 2, going to Laban's and coming back. And then we have the 2 dreams by Joseph, or Joseph. Mm-hmm. And then we have then these 2, then the baker and the cupbearer. That's 2 more dreams. Yeah. And then we have Pharaoh, and he has 2 dreams. And so there's just a theme, through all of this. Mm-hmm. And all of it was prophetic, every one of them. And I'm just going to touch on Acts 7 verses 9 through 16. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to kind of talk about that. That's where Saul had a vision of where he came to an encounter with Yeshua. Yes. Okay. So, I always like to point back to Paul had an encounter with Yeshua, and at Damascus Road encounter, and then we have Moses having a burning bush experience. And so a lot of times when I'm praying for people, I pray that they would have a burning bush experience or a road to Damascus encounter. Yeah. So, but anyway, it's a dream. Yeah. And so then to go on in Acts, in Acts, then Ananias has a vision or a dream. Yes, he does. Where, he's telling him that Paul's going to come, and, he kind of like, oh no, this guy's going to kill me. And I think, personally, that Ananias was in prayer because they knew Saul was coming. That's my personal opinion. Then that's why he was really in prayer. Yes. To thwart that, and certainly the Lord did. But once again, that's my opinion. It's not anywhere in Scripture. Right. But just wanted to bring the fact that there is a correlation between these dreams and visions through these last Torah portions. Yeah. I mean, I would want to think that Ananias would remind the Lord what people like Shaul was doing to people like Ananias. Yes. And this is the one you want me to go talk to? And so it would be challenging, but he heard the voice and he knew, and he does go. Yes. And it's a great result. And he's not killed. Fortunately, he's delivered, and he's. But I would think, knowing what he knew, he was in prayer at that time. So Joseph brings the interpretation of the dream that the Lord has demonstrated to him. And it's kind of like in the way of the cupbearer and the baker, the dream is the same, except one will be restored to their position and one will be put to death. But it was both about their exaltation, but again, one back to their position, one to death. Okay, so all of a sudden I had this vision of one will be put to death and one will live. And one will live. And does that recall? Yes, that's... a priestly ceremony, yes. It's a tabernacle ceremony of the doves. Yeah, very much so. And the day of the Yeshua's trial, we have 2 sons of the Father, Bar Abba. Both of them are Bar Abba.
Yeah, both of them are
Wow.
sons of the Father.
I just saw that.
So there's a lot of those kind of foreshadowings, which have a manifestation immediately, but it's telling something yet to come.
Yes.
With the Azazel goat and that. So again, 2 goats. One is set free and one goes to death. So yeah, this very much is a theme in the scriptures in the telling of the tales. Very much so.
Yeah, and so some of the foreshadowing, of course, is Pharaoh exalts Joseph to be second in command, and will sit at Pharaoh's right hand, where Yeshua sits at the right hand of the Father right now. And Pharaoh gives Joseph authority and gives him charge over everything. And Yeshua, that's the Father, has given authority, his authority, to Yeshua, and over everything. And just to kind of say this is that we've been given that authority. And so are we walking in the full authority that Yeshua, through his Father, has given us? So just a question.
It's good to check ourselves and see if we are, because it's easy to hear and believe and act in the way the world would have us define us. But it's important for us to see how he defines us, and remind ourselves and stir ourselves up in that, because it doesn't always feel like that. And it's the harshness of the world is sometimes a little overwhelming if we don't embrace that he is overcome and he is the author of the world. He is the command over all nations and kingdoms and provinces. So again, Joseph proves his prowess, especially as it continues to come to pass. And the idea is that there's a famine coming, but the Lord will allow 7 years of plenty to prepare and store up so that they could make it through the 7 years of lean and hardship. And this is so inspiring that Pharaoh again has Joseph adorned to take this position. He says, we need someone who's going to manage this. Well, who else is full of the wisdom of God, such as you? So Joseph is put in place in this position, again, the right hand of Pharaoh. And he does manage this situation. And what we'll eventually see is this is the way in which the Lord will deal with a lot of things, but reunite Joseph with his family. But right now, the world and the brothers and the father will only know him as an Egyptian. They won't see their brother. They won't see his son. The people won't see a Hebrew. But Joseph will be in this grand position of authority where he is both holding the world together and saving everybody by managing this very difficult situation, because this impact is beyond Egypt. It goes into all, a lot of the other nations are driven to come to Egypt to get grain, to sustain them, to carry themselves through. And amongst those is the tribe of Jacob. So they are brought to go down to get supplies. And there they begin the restoration of the relationship with their brother Joseph, who they don't know yet is Joseph.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me. I think that one of the things that we need to look at is that, first of all, we have Abraham going down to Egypt in his Torah portion, and it was because of a famine. And then we have, I know that we talked about it too, is Naomi's husband took them from Bethlehem to Moab. And so we talked about that in the enemy's camp. But then it's always a famine, and this is a famine that once again that's going to, and so we want to kind of look at those famines and see what caused us to go there, where are we supposed to go, and what do we do while we're there, and how do we get the victory? And so the famine can take us to places in our life that can be good or it can be bad. But the main thing of it is to look at these 3 instances, or whenever there's a famine, to look at those and see, okay, what can we learn from that? And that's really my thing about the Torah portions is, I love studying the Torah portions, and there's always these, great and mighty, kind of in a sense, I'm going to call it mystical things that are, but I'm more about how can I do this? What in this Torah portion is speaking to me, and what is, how is it teaching me to walk the word? So I'm more of a principle type person about what principle can I learn from this. I don't want just information. Even on Monday night Torah studies, it's what I ask people. Don't just bring me information. Bring things that we can apply to our walk.
Because looking at the portion this week we can receive empowerment for our gifts to be shown out if we operate in them, if we demonstrate them before people. That's what Joseph is doing here. He's demonstrating it, and it does give him the victory. It's building on what he's done before when he's demonstrated the gifts. But it, again, because of his demonstration here, it totally propels him forward. And that's what the energy this week is for us, that we can do that. It is in us to have the same experience. It's not necessary that everybody gets to be the one to rule the world. That stuff is specific. But to rule whatever we need to manage, whatever we need to gain authority over, the empowerment is there for us to take hold of that.
Right, and Joseph's life, from pit to palace, so to speak, it wasn't always easy. In some congregations we just need to scrub the toilet, but how do we do that?
Right.
How do we take the minor things and the what we think are pitfalls, so to speak. What do we do with those things? And if we can pattern, which his life patterns after Yeshua, but how, I think that Joseph, he's really one of my, besides Yeshua, he's one of my favorite, because I can see his struggles and how he got from where he was, and I still say that his brothers put him in the pit, but he came out different. So I believe that the Lord had some sort of encounter. We talked about Saul's Damascus Road encounter. Well, Joseph had some sort of encounter, I believe, in that pit.
That would make sense.
He came out different.
Yes. He's definitely continuing as we see him in the various stages. He's not the same sort of tattletale. He's not the same tattletale that we meet and see him in those earlier, young man years. And it's the Lord's process is showing forth, and it is conforming him.
Right.
And he is letting go of the immature parts, but he embraces the things that he has learned in that. So he incorporates that, and it carries him far, so that this many thousands of years later, we're still benefiting from that. It will come to pass, these things with the famine and all that. So he's exalted to that. And that's a big part of what's going on in Mikketz. We also wanted to cover, because tonight at sunset, is the beginning of Hanukkah, and that is an 8-day festival. It is also not mentioned in Scripture into the Tanakh. It is only found in the Gospels, as John writes about it in John 10. He is talking about Yeshua's presence in Solomon's colonnade at the Feast of Dedication. Sometimes it's talked about. Some translations will say Hanukkah, some will say the Festival of Lights. Those are all aspects of Hanukkah. Hanukkah has the same derivation as the name Enoch. We get Enoch from that. Enoch was dedicated. He was dedicated to the Father. Enoch in Hebrew is Hanok. So there you can start to see the connection. Chanukah, the festival of dedication. So it has to be, is dealing with dedication because of a dedication of an altar that happens at that time. Why is it at that time? It was the year 165 before the Common Era, and it is on Kislev 25th, the month, the Hebrew month Kislev, on the 25th of that month. Why did it occur on that day? The Syrian Greek ruler Antiochus Epiphanes, he's Antiochus IV, Epiphanes starts to demonstrate the seeming God status that he likes to see himself as, or his inner circle saw him as. And so the date of the God that he served, the birthday of that date of that God is a sun god, and it's December 25th. And during the time of the Tower of Babel, not Babylonian, but the Tower of Babel, when the languages were dispersed, well, various names of the sun god go forth into various cultures and languages, and the birthday that stays with those various deities is December 25th. And it has to do with the time of having the least amount of light and the most amount of dark. So it's the shortest day and the longest night. So from that day going forth, the days start to get longer and the nights start to get shorter. So it's the rise of the sun god. So coming into the vernal equinox, where there's equal light and equal darkness, equal day, equal night, and then going forth from there, it's the ascension of the sun god, as it is more light, less night. So for a period of time. So it doesn't go forever. It doesn't keep increasing. But the birthday of that is because it's beginning the ascension. It's the shortest day, but now light begins to take over the night. So that's the birthday of that. Back time, because of changes in the calendar, it was more like December 25th, whereas as the millennia have worn on, it's more a little bit, a few days earlier, around the 21st to the 23rd in there over time. But at that time, December 25th matched up with Kislev 25th. So on that calendar, the Hebrew calendar, Hanukkah is celebrated as that. And it has to do with revolts that have happened in that time. With the Maccabees is the main one, Matthias and Judah the Maccabee. Matthias is famed for slaying a man. It was a Hellenistic Jewish man who was participating in the New World Order, so to speak. As the Syrian Greeks were the empire of the day, he was falling prey to that, and he went to sacrifice on an altar. And so,
but what was he sacrificing?
Was he sacrificing a pig?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was sacrificing a pig on an altar. So,
which in Maccabee, it was called an abomination of desolation.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get to where we're correlating that to Daniel, Yeshua, and Revelation.
Yeah, I mean it is connected. So on that day, in the altar in the temple, you get to a point where that is desecrated. And once an altar is, even if it's just not used, if the fire goes out, the altar in the temple sanctuary had to be maintained. If it goes out, you can't just relight it. It has to be removed and a new altar dedicated. So, and especially if it's destroyed, it's the abomination. Slaughtering an unclean animal on an altar as a sacrifice totally unfits that altar for ever being used again. And he did this on the birthday of his god, a sun god. So that, as well as some other things in the Maccabees' life, there's a martyrdom story that's a difficult read, but a worthwhile read to understand. One, why the people of Israel hold so fast typically to not eating pork, because in all of the various times where nations have turned against Israel that lived within their borders, there was a mandate to eat pork under penalty of death. It's come down to that several times, and this was one of the times. Because of that, and again, an account of Hannah and her children, and what happened to them, as well as the altar being desecrated by the abomination that makes desolate, these were things that spurred on Israel to rise up and reclaim some sovereignty over Jerusalem and the Temple Mount and the land, and to be restored as an empire again, rescind the exile. So you go into that. One of the things that you go back to, and again it ties in a bit with Joseph, is the prophet Daniel. Daniel has to do with God as my judge. That is his, then what his name means and translated into English, but it shows what he deals with a lot of his life is judgment and seeing the realities of judgment. We get to a point in late in the chapters in the book where Daniel is fasting and wearying himself to try and understand these things. And the angel Gabriel is sent to bring a message to him, to give him understanding as much as he's allowed to do. There are things he couldn't go to that. He gets to a point in the book, in the chapter 12, where he tells Daniel, keep these words and seal up the book until the time of the end. Many will rush here and there as knowledge increases. And just a cursory sort of interpretation, with the implementation of artificial intelligence and jet enginery, people are rushing here and there, and knowledge is increasing. And knowledge, the whole knowledge of the world hadn't increased or doubled until about, in recorded history, till about the 50s or the 60s. And now it's doubling a couple of times a year. It's progressed to that point where it's doubling so fast. But Daniel was in this position trying to figure these things out because of his ingeniousness that he's been given, and his work with dreams, again connecting him back to Joseph. But Gabriel is sent to give him this message where he does give him understanding, and some of that prophecy deals with things that'll come up with Hanukkah. But two of the things Daniel couldn't understand is because Hanukkah hadn't happened yet. It's hundreds of years later. Purim is another holiday festival that hasn't happened yet. They're not mentioned in the Bible directly. They hadn't happened yet. But both of them deal with an anti-Messianic figure of great prominence that's horrific toward the Israelites. And because of that, there's something of that has to be worked into the equation that Daniel's trying to understand. And because they haven't happened yet, he can't factor those in.
Right. And so really, to go back to Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, this is where it describes a future ruler who will set up an abomination in the temple, effectively halting sacrifices and leading to desolation. This prophecy is crucial for understanding the eschatological framework of both Daniel and Revelation. And so that's where we first see the abomination of desolation. Then if you read the book of Maccabees, it says that phrase. Yeah. So then you go to Matthew 24:15, and Yeshua warns of the abomination of desolation. And so he is referring, when he would have said that, to the listeners, they would have known, first of all, Daniel 9, and they would have known about Hanukkah. So that Hanukkah gave a picture of what Daniel was trying to say. And then, of course, in Revelation, the book of Revelation alludes to the abomination in the context of the end times, where it symbolizes the ultimate rebellion against Hashem and the establishment of false worship. So once again, that's really why we celebrate, because not by name, other than in John 10, but Daniel, he didn't know what to call it, because he didn't have that full understanding of it until later when knowledge increased.
When knowledge increased.
Yep.
And the revelation of when Purim occurs and when Hanukkah occurs, he's trying to study times and dates to figure out a timeline of these events that he's been told of. And without those dots to connect the timeline into, he's untethered and things aren't going to add up.
Right.
And Gabriel tells him, you'll be asleep with your fathers by the time these things come to pass. So he says, take it easy, because he's wearing himself out trying to understand what's coming.
Right. And so without reading the book of Maccabees to know what the abomination of desolation was, what it was them sacrificing a pig on the altar. And so it brings in about false worship, which that's what Revelation is talking about. So, well, we're going to talk more about Hanukkah next session. So, happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. Eat your fried sweets and enjoy.
And play your dreidels.
Play your dreidels. Light your lights. Shalom.